January 30th, 2024. Live streaming from a distant galaxy. This is the world's most controversial podcast, the Doomsy McDoomscroller Show, a philosophical science fiction series featuring realistic futurology and refreshingly heretical commentary on the news. And before getting to the news article today, Doomsy's gonna talk about the title of this episode, more directly, or I guess indirectly, relative to the articles. And then maybe the articles will support the point that Doomsy's making. And that is, there's at least a million people on Earth right now that are open to having a conversation about the abandonment of your culture. Yeah, really. At least a million. So that means I could probably say millions, right? Plural. I know there's at least a million. Right? I think the title to this episode is a question. Who is advocating for the abandonment of civilized culture? I don't think it's quite that. Maybe it was changed. Maybe the producers changed it before I went on the air. Well, you know Doomsy is an advocate. It makes sense. So in a way, what we're talking about here is just why is this a controversial podcast? Well, probably because we're close to 8 billion people. Think it's blasphemy to even suggest, to even entertain the idea of abandoning civilized culture. But that's only about 8 billion people. Yeah, that's most people in your culture at the moment. But already there are millions. And it makes sense to be open to it. The only reason you might find Doomsy's commentary to be controversial or heretical or is mythology. You have a mythologically based bias about civilized culture. And I'm talking civilized with a capital C. East and West, all income levels, 8 billion, all y'alls. Right? The farming culture. More accurately called the Holy War agriculture. That's what you all do. Why shouldn't it be talked about? Abandoning your culture. It can't continue. It's collapsing. And you have to admit that if the collapse doesn't benefit you and you all of the people of your species, you have to admit that the collapse, the end, the disappearance of civilized culture on planet Earth will be beneficial for every other living thing. Right? You got to admit that. Even if you equate humanity with civilization, which is a totally false equivalency. There's no way you can define the whole species of us humans by one culture. I'm not part of your culture. I escaped the dominant culture. But I had to leave the planet to do it. I don't even know where I am right now. Definitely not the Milky Way galaxy. I'm looking at some, I don't know if you're getting the video feed of this, but there's some big, weird kind of Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of plant kind of thing glowing. Very strange. Not Rocky Horror Picture Show. What was that? What was that movie with Rick Moranis? Steve Martin. There was a dentist. I don't know. I forget. I'd like to get back to Earth. What's going to be left by the time I get back there? That's the realistic futurology part of this show. Because it matters. I would like very much not to have to wear this suit ever again. I've been on some beautiful planets in this galaxy, or maybe this universe. I'm bouncing around the multiverse somewhere. And they've been amazing and everything, and a sight to behold, but I got to wear a spacesuit on every one of them. There's just always something that's just not quite right. And even if everything superficially on the surface just seems to be okay, still don't know, the tiniest little bug or anything, microbe, could be the death of me. There's no way to prepare for millions of years of evolutionary adaptation all of a sudden being made obsolete by just being on a different planet in a different biosphere. So I would like it so that getting back to Earth, I don't have to wear this spacesuit anymore. And I don't know if that's gonna be the case. And it's not because of some robot apocalypse. We're talking realistic futurology here. Y'all do not have the time for silicone to be your undoing. Microchips just aren't going to do it. AI, not going to do it. I don't know, maybe if civilized culture was, or some other culture that was doing AI was sustainable. It's really almost impossible to think of civilized culture as being sustainable. But let's say some other culture that did happen to be sustainable developed AI. I guess that would be a threat. That would be something to think about. Maybe to hold the horses a little bit. If you got centuries to develop that. But y'all don't got centuries. You only got decades. And that's even just ignoring climate change. You could ignore climate change, rising oceans, everything. And still, all evidence indicates that you're done. It's game over. I mean, your culture's done. I shouldn't say you're done, because that's the main, one of the main points of this show, is that civilized culture is doomed. Humanity, not necessarily. Humans went on for 300,000 years without the kind of problems you're facing right now. 300,000 years. If we're talking people, a couple million years, but anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens, 300,000 years of fashion and dinner parties, sustainable life. And so why shouldn't humanity continue without civilized culture? It's already been proven it's not needed. And if you think that going without civilized culture means anarchy and chaos, you're full of it. You are full of it. Civilized culture has got you pumped full of its mythology. It wasn't anarchy and chaos. That is the mythology, you know? Without civilized culture, nothing but savages, right? Subhuman animal savages. Which is weird. I mean, you really got to think about how your worldview is based on the worldview that, you know, some misogynistic ignoramuses had about 12,000 years ago. You think that because you write laws and throw people in cages that everyone else that doesn't do that is subhuman savages. It's ridiculous, really. I mean, you haven't solved anything. Okay, let's look at some articles. Doomsday will show you why people are open to conversations about the abandonment of civilized culture. When you, especially if you're going to use the words, this is the C word, right? Civilized with a capital C. This is the C word. The word with the most heavy connotations than any other word. I mean, you think it defines what it means to be human. It's that word. But really, what is it really? Not mythologically, but practically. It's simply a sound that refers to your culture. The one that got started about 12,000 years ago there in the Fertile Crescent. And by way of genocide and slavery has spread all over the globe. That's the facts. What happened in North America there recently, the genocide and slavery that the United States of America was founded upon, that wasn't anything new. Holy War agriculturalists have been doing that for 10,000 years. 10,000 years emphatically. So that was nothing new that happened. That genocide and slavery, that was standard operating procedure for your culture. That's how civilized culture spreads. So examine what it means to be civilized from the reality of what the world experiences, and not what you're told to believe by the mythology of your culture. I mean, the reason why you have to fight for rights and everything like that, like, it's always vote, fight for rights, and you got a civil rights this and human rights that and civil rights over here, and yeah, you know why you got to do that, right? Because your culture's MO is genocide and slavery. That's your culture's calling card. Not just a calling card, I guess, a calling card saying, hey, we're showing up here to conquer. So maybe stripping some of the connotations off this word can help you realize that really there's nothing great about civilized culture unless you're a neo-pharaoh. If you're a neo-pharaoh, I can see why you're so deluded. You're so infected with the delusion of grandeur, with the delusion of godhood that runs at the core of your culture. If you're a neo-pharaoh, then for sure, I mean, you really want it. But you really want it to go on, civilized culture. We're talking neo-pharaohs. It's only, what, 1 million? Say top million. Who knows what the number is? Top million wealthiest, say, in civilized culture. Top million wealthiest on Earth, right? Those are the neo-pharaohs. Now, for sure, well, maybe not for sure, but I mean, because money doesn't buy happiness. So even one of them might be open to it. Yeah, Doomsy, I can hear you saying, yeah, money doesn't buy happiness. But it's easier to cry in a Mercedes than on a bicycle. Yeah, for sure. But that's what you've made it. Y'all have made it that way. It's your doing. I mean, it got started 10,000 years ago. But why would people want to continue it now? Case in point. Here's a headline. This is from today, Tuesday, January 30th. UPS to cut 12,000 jobs. Explore options for coyote business. Explore options, UPS. I found this on Yahoo News. That was the headline. From Reuters, I think. 12,000 jobs. 12,000 people just stressing. Every reason to stress. Because if you don't build pyramids, you don't eat. Y'all perpetuate the warmongering, pyramid building, the pharaoh fostering culture. And it's gotten to the point now where you fear not being able to drag stones. There's been so much genocide and slavery that the whole globe has been conquered by holy war agriculturalists at this point. 8 billion of you. And there's no... You want to talk about like diversity? Well, what diversity? What diversity? Everybody, everywhere, in every country, in every piece of land, every society, everybody, a huge percentage of everybody fears losing a job. That's all over. Sounds kind of uniform. To me, this kind of stuff happens everywhere. Nope. These pharaohs, these neo-pharaohs, they decided to cut umpteen thousand jobs, whatever it is. They don't gotta worry. They're neo-pharaohs, right? They fancy themselves like gods. They walk around, or they get carted around. Walk around. Private yachts, sail them around. Private jets. And it's not the economy that does it for them. It's the culture. It's the culture doing this. So people are going to be open to it. More and more people are going to be open to those conversations. And I'm not saying it's because Doomsy's open to it. The only reason I'm open to conversations about the abandonment of civilized culture is because there was already 1 million people open to it. That's why I got caught into such a dialogue. And things were pointed out to me. Things that were invisible only because they were right in front of my face. And there was already 1 million people who could detect the bars of the cage, of the civilized cage. The mythology that is your culture's method of continuing the stampede. At least a million had such perspective and attitude before Doomsy did. So that number, then Doomsy comes along. Oh, okay. That's a provocative conversation topic. Let's have it. Because look, 12,000 jobs. This is a common thing, right? What benefit? These 12,000 jobs. I don't know what percentage is going to have a lot of trouble. What percentage of these workers are going to experience some hard times? You have articles like this. It's from NBC News. This is just incredibly sad. I'm sorry to read this headline, but it's got to be pointed out. Because if your head is in the sand, you got to pull it out. And look around. People are ready for something new. And we're not talking revolution, we're talking about abandonment. Something more powerful than a revolution. Because there's no uprising, there's no leaders. It's not based on violence. It's not based on rearranging the content of the pyramid. From NBC News. Family of teen who died by suicide after video of her assault was posted online sues school. Family of teen who died by suicide after video of her assault was posted online sues school. All right. I'm going to get that off the screen. Yeah, that's just... Look, here's what Doomsy's going to say about this. A lot of people might argue about a headline like this, like, well, geez, the school should have done something, or they need more security guards at school. Look, we can only assume that this assault happened at school. Right? This happened at the detention centers. For young people. The detention centers for people who are not yet deemed ready to drag stones. Schools. Where kids are detained while their parents build pyramids so that they can get food. So this happened at school, and a lot of people may argue, like, it was the school's responsibility, right? They're suing the schools. The school, they'll have to pay money, and there'll be arguments about what taxes and budgets and security and what to do about this, and what kind of classes should there be, how many more counselors do you need at school. And Doomsy can just say, look, don't worry about it. Don't worry about fixing it. It's not fixable. Schools will not be around for much longer. Why have detention centers? Your culture has been canceled from the moment it began. Way back there between the Tigris and the Euphrates River somewhere, or thereabouts, right? Fertile Crescent. It was canceled then. Just simply by the laws of physics. Mother Nature took a look and went, what? Fruitfully multiply in a finite ecosystem, finite area. Even let's just go area. Let's make it as basic as it gets. Multiplication, not necessarily fruitful. Have dominion over a planet It's maniacal. It really is. But that's what your culture is all about. That's why people are ready to give it up. 300,000 years, no schools. No schools. This headline included the phrase posted online, right? So we're talking social media and, let's have that conversation on social media. Maybe school needs rules about something, or there's no fixing it. There's no fixing what's going on in the schools. It's not natural. I mean, that's not how people learned anything for hundreds of thousands of years. Civilized culture comes along and then practically overnight. Kids killing each other, killing themselves. Clinical depression. You got songs about it. Songs are written about it. And y'all go, oh, what's wrong with these kids? What's wrong with these schools? No, what's wrong with your culture? That's driving people to this. Look, you have those kind of problems. Those two articles we just looked at, and then you got a headline like this. Exclusive. Hotelier. Hotel billionaire. Robert Bigelow gives Trump $1 million for legal fees to donate $20 million more. Okay, you gotta be freaking kidding me. That's what you're doing. That's your culture, propping up these a-holes. This guy got so much money, he's going to give another guy who just claims to have so much money and who also brags about sexual assault and has been adjudicated a rapist. They're just passing millions of dollars between each other. Oh, just for legal fees. What kind of world is that? Your culture has had 10,000 years to get it right. This is a total failure. So much of the news is just simply an indictment on your culture. And people are ready for something new. More and more people are ready for something new. And that includes conversations about the abandonment of civilized culture. Doomsday was not the first. Far from it. I'm like the millionth. And then I left Earth. I don't have any great perspective from being in this galaxy or this universe. It was already shown to me. Long before I left. That's one reason why I was happy to leave. I knew what I was getting away from. But really, I just wanted a way out. like to find some kind of wormhole to some M-class planet, right, with just the perfect mix of atmospheric gases and oceans and fresh water, and a place for friends and family, for people who don't want to build pyramids, who don't want to go down with the ship, who don't want to run with the stampede all the way to that ecological cliff. And I'm not going to do it. I've been to a lot of planets. None of them are as good as Earth. It's so ridiculous. You got some of these billionaires talking about Mars. Earth, I'll tell you from sometimes jumping into a parallel universe, I'm tossed kind of into a future on the timeline of some space-time continuum, and I get glimpses. And I'm telling you, Earth, on its worst dystopian day, on its worst dystopian future day, Earth is a million times better than Mars. A million times better than Mars. That would be the case even if Mars had proper gravity, which it doesn't. So who is having conversations about the abandonment of civilized culture? More people than you think. More people than you think. It's never going to be fair. No matter how many civil rights and human rights and laws and everything that you pass, pyramid building is never going to be fair. Do you think, you really think that just documents, you can come up with some documents and have some judges and lawyers and that will fix, that will somehow not absolve you of the guilt, but you think that will somehow just undo the mechanics of a culture that has been spreading across the globe by way of genocide and slavery for 10,000 years? 10,000 years of genocide and slavery. That's your culture. That's not going to be fixed. You can't just go, oh, well, let's have some economists get into some arguments and write some constitutions and change the taxes every now and then. And we'll just keep right on going. Civilized culture just keep just cruising along. No. Like, you want to keep doing the pyramid building and the pharaoh fostering. I can get that a lot of you don't want to do the pyramid building. Maybe don't want to do the pharaoh fostering. But you don't realize you're doing the warmongering. At least consciously aware. A lot of people are subconsciously aware. if you aren't thinking directly about it. Every time a bit of plastic goes into some recycle bin, right, you got to figure that the vast majority of plastic, the recycling program, it sucks. It's not really happening. The ocean's filling up with plastic. At this rate, in just a matter of decades, there'll be more plastic than fish in the ocean. That's the reality. Sure, there are a lot of Egyptian crocodiles, but if you're not an Egyptian crocodile, you still might just get by coping by not even mentioning elephant in the room. And maybe that's not healthy. Talk about that elephant in the room. Because this is good news. Good news that civilized culture is the problem. There's nothing wrong with our species. There is something wrong with your culture. And cultures can be abandoned. Certainly, people have to be in another culture. You can't just be without a culture. But that's going to happen. I mean, there'll be a culture. A sustainable one is the goal. Sustainable ones, I should say. Many. Bring diversity back. Egalitarian societies, they were all the rage for 300,000 years. Actually, they were just normal. That was standard. That was just... There were no pharaohs. Everybody in a society had the same lifestyle. People became people by living in tribes. Wolves became wolves by living in packs. Lions became lions by living in prides. Gazelle became gazelle by living in herds. And Homo sapiens became Homo sapiens by living in tribes. These socioeconomic hierarchies aren't really doing it for the lot of you. So, who's having conversations? Who's open to conversations about the abandonment of your culture? A lot more people than you think. Questions, comments, criticisms. You want your voice heard on the Doomsy McDoomscroller show? Just go to our website, www.doomsymcdoomscroller.com.